Bookaholics is a safe place for reading junkies who obsess over books, authors, bookstores, book news, and book trivia. We'll nerd out with book reviews, author interviews, our habit, and other bookish things. Here is your host, Deirdre Pippins.
Hello, Babak.
Hello.
Hi. So welcome to the Bookaholic channel.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. I was reading your profile and, it is just extremely interesting. And I want my audience to really get to know you and all of the fascinating things that you've accomplished well before you wrote a book. And just in preparation for the interview, your main focus career-wise has been artificial intelligence. And the way all of it reads is if you were really involved in artificial intelligence and before any of us really knew it was a thing.
Yes, it used to be that I had to explain what AI was to people. I don't anymore. Most
Right.
people know what it is. But yeah, I got into it in the mid 80s. So quite a while back. Yeah.
Oh, wow. So what did artificial intelligence look like in the mid 80s?
Yes, AI was limited to a few researchers. I mean, AI has been around. The concept has been around from the advent of modern computing. Actually, Alan Turing came up with the concept, and he's the same guy that came up with the idea of computers, basically the way we know them today. But not too many people were working on it, and it was very diverse in many ways. I mean, from a perspective of what people thought AI was and how they thought they could build it. Back then, for example, expert systems were big, which was essentially, taking what humans know and how humans classify the world and packaging them into a system that can help you classify the world. So, for example, you want to know what this insect name is, it'll ask you a few questions and kind of hone in on what that insect is. And it's just, capturing what humans did. But there was machine learning going on. Neural networks were around. They were rather new, but people were actually working on neural networks. Today, in contrast, almost all of AI is focused on neural networks and deep learning. So it kind of, in some ways, we've had huge breakthroughs, and in some ways, it's kind of more boring. Like people aren't looking at as many facets of intelligence as they used to.
Yes. Well, let's break that down to the average man and the average woman. So when I think about the mid 1980s, I think about max headroom. Do you remember that symbol of the 1980s? Do you remember that?
I was not in the US back then, so I don't quite know. Sorry.
Okay. I got you. Fair enough.
There's a gap in my knowledge of the culture.
Well, exactly. I got you. Well, so let's just fast forward it to today and to put it in for the common man and common woman. Because when you ask the average person on the street and you ask them about artificial intelligence, they're thinking possibly holograms and maybe having a hologram of Michael Jackson in concert or Tupac Shakur in concert. So what is that accurate or is it not? Give us some plain explainable ways of AI right now.
Yeah, that is accurate. I mean, most people who got into AI were thinking, can we create something that's as intelligent or more than humans? And so the way they thought about intelligence was how it's manifested in human beings. So, if I think about how you as a person are intelligent, how can I create something? It could be an avatar, it could be a robot that can, let's not call it fake, but trick other people into your flesh and blood human.
Yes.
And that was actually the original definition that Alan Turing came up with, was very similar to that. But when we actually peeled the onion and started looking at what intelligence actually is and what it entails, we started trying to look at what intelligence is in abstract. I mean, not necessarily the way humans are intelligent, but the way we think intelligence should be and how it operates in the world. So there is some research going on there, but I think the popular sort of conception of AI is exactly what you said. In fact, recently people have been able to create systems that can chat with you and even write papers, write articles that you would not be able to tell that this was written by a machine.
Yes.
And there is even stories in the news about people who've lost a loved one, and they've actually tried to create an avatar of that loved one.
Oh
And
my gosh.
it's not very easy to tell that this avatar is not the person that you've lost. So we're starting to get there as far as being able to trick others into thinking that something is intelligent. But whether or not it is actually intelligent, that is still a matter of debate, really.
Wow, that last example you just gave about people that's in grief and creating an avatar of the person that they lost, initially you think, okay, that person is grieving, maybe that could be part of their grieving process, and then I don't know where it goes from there. But then if you really expand it and see that, I can see a lot of people doing a lot of crooked and evil and wicked things with something like that.
Oh yeah, it starts sounding really creepy. It is already creepy to me. I mean,
It is.
I think when you lose someone, as you said, you want to go through that grief period,
Right.
and it's a natural process. You want
Right.
to accept the fact that that person isn't around anymore. But I don't know if this actually helps with that. And also, I mean, just imagine if we were able to, and we are able to generate videos and of people doing and saying things that they never did, and
Right.
not being able to tell that happens. That's already kind of happening, and it's
Yeah.
creepy.
Very creepy. Well, now let's get into these, and I may be using the wrong term, these deep fakes, like Tom Cruise. There's a guy that does a deep fake of Tom Cruise, and
There's
it's
one of
an excellent
Obama.
job. And it's Tom Cruise on Twitter and Instagram and all this kind of stuff. And he's just popping up, and I'm like, how does Tom Cruise feel about this stuff? I mean,
Exactly.
people are jumping around, not just impersonating, but really tricking people into believing that it's the real deal. What do you say about that?
Yeah, I think that should be illegal.
Yes, definitely. I was like, can't Tom Cruise sue? This is ridiculous. So yeah, I think that's a very scary part of AI. Now, you and I have kind of talked about on the surface the scary part of AI, but let's talk about the positive part of AI. Give us some good examples of artificial intelligence that's really helping us right now.
Yeah, the pandemic, how do you deal with that? It's a very tough problem as far as what kind of policies you put in place, but at the same time, you don't want the economy to go south. So there's a balance between the two, and an AI system can come in and give you recommendations that finds that happy balance, and it's very, very difficult to do, as we saw firsthand by politicians. They seem to tend to take one extreme versus the other, like everybody shut down and mask up versus everything's completely open. Well, it's not either. It's something in between, and it takes some smarts to be able to do that. In medicine, AI is helping a lot with coming up with interventions and diagnostics and prescriptions, in fraud detection, and
Yeah.
there are many areas. I think, generally speaking, as humans, we overestimate how well we make decisions, and we think that just give me the insights, give me the charts, and I know what to do. I don't think that is the case, and I think we could use help from AI systems to augment, to help us with our decision making, and that's what I've been working on in the past decade.
Oh, wow. Okay. So like, let's go into this. So what about Siri? I saw that little tidbit on your your information. Are you responsible for Siri? That would just be.
I wouldn't say that. It was a very big team that worked on that for many years. I was responsible for the core technology back then that was used for Siri. That technology, I hope, isn't being used anymore. I mean, that's been quite a while now.
Okay. Right,
Yeah,
right.
and I hope that they've upgraded and changed it. But back then, yes, that was, we were working on systems that could understand you. So you could command and control them with natural language, the way you and I speak. And that goes all the way back to 1997 when we started putting a system like that together. And as speech recognition became better, it turned into Siri. My good friend Adam Chire and a lot of the team that worked with me on the natural language piece started Siri and worked on it. I will take credit for the natural language technology, but whenever it breaks or doesn't understand you or does the weird thing, that's not me. That's probably something they put in
right.
later.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's not you totally. Well, again, like I started off with this interview, you have a vast wealth of experience. It's very impressive, and you describe yourself as a serial entrepreneur, as do I. And I just wonder, when you were, I don't know, a little kid, 10, 12 years old, and you were thinking about the future and what, people would ask you, what do you want to be when you grow up? The first thing that popped into your head was AI and serial entrepreneur, right?
No. I just didn't know what I would be. I mean, I went through all these periods of wanting to be a fireman and a pilot and an astronaut and all that kind of stuff. But I think in hindsight, there was a lot of me trying to figure things out, for sure. I took my grandmother's gramophone apart every time we came to visit. And one time we came to visit and she had the whole thing tied with a rope around it so I couldn't get to it. And I still got to it. But I liked taking it apart and figuring it out. I did not like putting it back together again.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that kind of got me to getting interested in AI, because what machine is more sophisticated and interesting than the human brain? So I started thinking about, let's take that apart, literally, and try to understand how it works. So that's how I got to it. But I never thought I would be an entrepreneur. It was very accidental. I started 3 companies ultimately, but initially, and never thought I would be doing that.
Yeah, I saw that, and all of those companies surrounded AI, correct?
Yeah,
In
everything I've done everything I've done in my career has been AI related. Yeah.
Wow. Well, let's talk about the book you wrote, and it's about stories from your childhood, correct?
Yep, that's right. I got it right here. Yep.
Yeah. So, what out of all this time with AI and all of these companies that you've owned or currently own, why did you want to write a book?
I didn't initially, actually. I started, when you go to parties and gatherings and so forth, these stories come to you and you tell them, and they're funny in some ways or unexpected. And I realized that people really are interested in, what happened, this weird juxtaposition of a kind of westernized person in Iran post-revolution with a war going on and everything. It sounds scary and weird and distant. And so when I told these stories, I felt like, it has an audience and it's interesting. And I was very bored on my commute to San Francisco to the office and back. And I started writing the stories down. And it turned into this collection. And friends who read it, they thought, it makes a lot of sense to actually publish. So also happened kind of accidentally.
Well, it sounds wonderful. So tell us about one of your short stories in the Konar and the Apple. Oh, let's talk about the title. So the Konar and the Apple, and I hope I'm saying Konar correctly.
That's perfect. Yes, that is.
Okay.
That is right.
And
yeah.
so what is that? What is a Konar?
A Konar, I talk about it briefly in the book as well. It's a fruit that's only found in that area of the world in Khuzestan, even if you're from Iran and you're not from Khuzestan or the south where Ahvaz is, you wouldn't know what it is. It has a lot of similarities and differences with apples, and somehow I thought this would be a nice title because nobody knows what a Konar is. Everybody knows what an apple is, and that's exactly what I was going for in the stories. The stories will sound at the same time very familiar and very remote at the same time, and I think that is hopefully what makes the stories interesting.
Yes, yes, yes. Well, give us one example of one of the short stories one can find in the Konar and the Apple.
Yeah, you asked me about entrepreneurship. My friends and I, my best friend, who is throughout the book, his picture is on the title as well, right next to me. He and I were bored one time when we got together back then. No internet, no Game Boys, no nothing. And we decided
I was there. There was nothing.
Exactly, there was nothing. And you can only play Monopoly so many times, right? Or card games or whatever. And we kind of thought of creating a board game, and we were really into soccer. World Cup had just finished, and actually the World Cup is going to start in a few days. The next one, yeah. And we thought, well, can we create a board game that's about soccer teams playing each other, and you have a coach and you're, all that. And one thing led to another, and we actually created this board game that became very, very popular, actually to the point where and it was just us putting it together. And you must imagine, I mean, this is post-revolutionary Iran. There's no commerce. There's no entrepreneurship in that country. We're 13, 14-year-old kids. We had aspirations. We thought about patenting it, going out and actually publishing it, and people were like looking at us weird, like, what are you guys, I mean, there's a war going on, what are you guys talking about? So yeah, we made this, and it became really, I mean, we were playing it 24/7, just doing tournaments, games with friends. And it took off. So there is a story about that. Actually, I go into a fair amount of detail about the board game itself. One thing I want to mention here is that when the book got published, my nephew, who is 12 years old, read the book, really loved that chapter, and he actually recreated the board game. And to my surprise, I went to their place one time, and my brother is like, you would not believe this. We went to the other room. They had the board game spread out. And kids of his age were actually playing it and all that. And it was like crazy. It was crazy.
That is nuts. Wow. Well, it was not in vain.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I was very, very surprised. So, yeah.
Wow. And what year was that? You talk about the revolution.
Must have been 82. Maybe 83. 82 was the World Cup that I remember vividly. And I think it was around 82 or 83 when we actually started the board game.
Got you. 83 was when I graduated from high school.
Okay.
So, yes.
I was 13 or 14 years old.
Yes. I got you. Okay, so I just wanted to kind of set the tone about the era we were talking about a little bit. We knew it was mid-80s, but I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, so you self-published this book. And so how was that journey?
It was interesting. I thought about publishing it and started thinking about actually getting a publisher and so forth. But I'm a control freak. I start companies, I put teams together. And I really wanted to retain this control over how the book is done cover to cover. So what you see is me all over. Of course, we had designers, we had numerous editors go through it. We made a lot of changes. So it was a teamwork for sure. I think we kind of replicated what we could have gotten from a publisher. At the same time, one thing I didn't want to do, and it happens a lot these days, is that rather than promoting a book, people promote the person, and I didn't want to do that.
Oh,
And so that was also something that kind of got in the way of publishing it using, classical publishing houses.
right.
They were telling me, oh, with your background, we will promote you this way. We'll have you go do that, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, it's really not about me. It's about the stories. So I really want that to be
Yeah.
highlighted.
Yes, exactly. And so how did you you said you had a team. How did you market your book?
So for marketing, we actually, and this is a recommendation to everyone, don't go, if you're publishing even with the classic method or otherwise, it makes sense to actually have a third-party marketing team. Some of them are rather expensive, so it does depend on your budget.
Mhm.
And yeah, I mean, for what I wanted to do, as I said, I had these strict, like, maybe crazy ideas about how I didn't want to promote myself and I wanted to promote the book. So there were some, not everyone, not every book marketer is going to take on a book. It really does depend on whether it's within their wheelhouse and how they're able to market it. But that's how we did it. Like, it was through a third party
Okay.
marketing firm that marketed books. Yeah.
Yes. And how's your book doing?
It's doing okay. Obviously everyone wants their book to be, number one in all categories. It has been number one in a few categories when it comes to, education, especially about the Middle East and history and biography and so forth. It's done quite well. I think it's kind of awkward sometimes. You run into people for the first time and they've actually read your book, which is a kind of intimate book of stories about you, and you know
Yeah.
nothing about them. So, it's had a little bit of that, but generally, yeah, I'm quite happy with how it's.
Wow. So do you see yourself writing another book?
Well, I actually have written another book.
Oh,
This one is not a memoir. It's actually a science fiction book, much closer to my area of
that's what I
AI.
was going to get at. Because I was like, why isn't he writing in science fiction? So anyway, great. Okay, so go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yes, it's a novella. It's not a very long book,
Mhm.
and hopefully it'll be good. We're in the final stages of launching that, and we're prepping for the marketing and so forth. So I can't really disclose too much more. Stay tuned, I guess, would be what I'd say
Yeah.
if anybody's listening out there. Yeah.
Well, you can always come back. You can always shoot me an email, and we can always get it out to the folks through my website or through email or whatever have you. So yeah, just
Absolutely.
let me know. And
Will do.
speaking of that, if you want to know more about Babak and his wonderful career and his book that he has, the Konar and the Apple, all you have to do is check out the show notes from the podcast and the description box for my YouTube channel below the video. Babak, I thank you and appreciate you for joining me on the Bookaholic podcast today. And I wish you well with your science fiction.
Thank you so much. A pleasure. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for joining me.